The Girl Who Owned a City, Chapter 14. Before dawn, the new leader of 700 sat thinking and planning how to manage his first day as leader of the city. He stared into the black void of the chamber, past the candle that had burned away. The candle, he thought. It was her candle, and now the light is gone, and so is she. The new leader of only 4 lay awake thinking and planning how to bring back all that she had lost. She stared into the ever-brightening space of the window until sunlight poured into the room. Her body felt weak, but her mind was active. The city, she thought, it was my city, and now I've left it. I must go back. Todd opened his eyes and stared at the strange ceiling until he recognized the lamp hanging above him. Last night, the lamp was hanging ominously over his sister. Why had he slept there? Then he remembered the night before. He quickly turned his head to study the patient. Her eyes were open, and they met his. She had been staring in his direction for some time. "It's nice to wake up warm in the morning, isn't it, Todd? Maybe we can find more oil stoves and move them to Glenbard. Think of how cold it must be in the bedrooms. We should..." What happened then came back to her. She fell silent. Lisa and Todd each tried to construct a mental image of the distant city. What was it like now? Would they ever see it again? Of course they would. They both knew it. She smiled and said, "Thanks for saving my life, Todd." "How do you feel?" "My arm hurts. Do you think you can find some aspirin for me?" He slipped down from the table and started rummaging through the nursing supplies. Jill appeared at the doorway. "What you need is a glass of whiskey, Lisa." "Are you kidding? Not a chance. That stuff is awful. I can still taste it from last night." She made a face and shook her head. "I'd rather suffer. Can't I have some aspirin?" "Sorry, Lisa, but we forgot to bring it along," Jill said. "And this farm doesn't have any. In fact, the whole place is empty. Someone has been here already, but there's plenty of whiskey. Come on, Todd, get your coat. I'm starved. Maybe there will be supplies at the farmhouse across the road." Jill and Todd left. The cheerful room was silent when Lisa suddenly remembered that she had already been to this farm. She had been the one a long time ago who had taken the food and even the aspirin. Now she remembered the old woman's note, her own wild idea about driving the car, the first ride, the chicken in the wicker basket, and the cookies in the jar. It seemed a long time ago. Ever since she had awakened, she had felt an urgent need to recapture Glenbard. Now that need and her excitement helped her forget the pain in her arm. Aspirin or whiskey couldn't have done the job as well. Lisa didn't doubt for a moment that they could save the city, but she also knew how strong Glenbard was. Winning back the city would take much more than confidence. How could 4 of them win against an army of hundreds? How? How? She asked 100 times, and then the first seed of a plan began to grow. Ideas began streaming through her mind. Lisa didn't notice Jill and Todd come back through the door. "Of course," she said out loud, "it will cost me plenty, but I can make a deal with another army for 2 months' worth of supplies. They'd help us capture the city. The dogs are gone, and that will help. And we know the city better than Logan. I wonder if anyone told him about the secret tunnel. If only we could get a spy inside." She laughed to herself at the thought. A spy? Why, we have hundreds of spies in there, she laughed again, and they turned to look at her. Was she delirious? But her thinking had never been clearer. The ideas kept coming. Signals from a spy, a new plan of the city showing Logan's room, a hired army surrounding the city, disguises for the 4 of them, a daylight attack on the inside from the tunnel, a signal to the army on the outside. "Lisa, do you want some breakfast?" somebody asked. She didn't hear. Could they get to Logan without being detected? It should be a dawn attack. He's probably a late sleeper. A set of keys. We'll need that to get into his room. A small pistol. Her eyes are wide open and her lips are moving a little, someone said. That's it, she thought. A gun to his stupid head. We'll hold him hostage till his army is out of the building, and then we'll lock him up for safekeeping. If we threaten to kill him, they'll leave us alone, at least till we can set up our defenses again. But Suppose the army doesn't need Logan anymore and they decided to fight instead of walking out. They probably like it in there. I'll bet they've eaten up all the food. What if they fight us? Will they believe our threats about killing Logan? We have to take the chance. We'll signal our soldiers. They'll slip in through the tunnel too. You can't see the entrance from the roof. Then when the Chittister gang is gone, we can get back to work. Should I shake her, Jill? Todd asked. The battle was already fought and won in Lisa's mind. When they're gone, we'll have to figure out a different kind of moat, one that's safer than a ring of dogs. We should find more cars with gas or find a way to get more gas. The parking lot is filling up with empty cars. What did I hear about portable electric generators? They run on gas too, and we could get electricity from them. Just think of that. We have lights and stoves and refrigerators and music and computers. She turned suddenly toward the breakfast table. Music, she shouted. Music. Do you know that we haven't heard music in almost 19 months? They stared at her. The loud words startled them. Music, I said. Soon we'll have music at Glenbard. She couldn't understand their dumbfounded looks. Now they were sure she was delirious. Jill walked over to the couch and stroked Lisa's forehead. Relax a while, Lisa, she said. Relax. We have food whenever you're hungry. Do you want a glass of water? Lisa understood. Thanks, Jill. Really, I'm all right. I was just thinking about a plan to get the city back, and I guess I got carried away. Do you think you can walk to the table? Jill asked. We've made a nice breakfast. Yours may be a little cold by now, though. Lisa tried to stand but fell back to the couch. Jill said, You're weak. You know, you lost a lot of blood. Stay on the couch. I'll bring your food to you. The other children gathered by the couch to watch her eat. Eggs? Lisa was amazed. Where did you find this? While she ate the delicious cold egg, Todd explained. The farm across the road has a big supply of everything. We found a chicken in the bedroom. We couldn't figure out what she ate, but she had a nice bed and a nice house all to herself. That's how we found the egg. Smart chicken, Lisa said with a smile. I'll have to go meet our new neighbor and thank her for the breakfast. We must be neighborly and all that, you know. Craig continued the game. I wonder if the old bird is afraid of chicken gangs. They each tried a joke about the chicken, and though the jokes got worse and worse, they laughed harder and harder. Everyone was feeling silly. Finally, Jill stopped the fun with a serious question. Lisa? What did you mean when you shouted the word music? And why did you say we'd soon have music at Glenbard? Lisa told them about the electric generator and a little about the new strategy, but not all. She had to think it through more carefully. She found herself suddenly tired again, but there were a few things that they could get started on. She looked at Todd for a moment and then said, One of the things we need is a spy. We need someone to slip into Glenbard quietly so Logan won't notice, and act like a regular citizen. Todd, will you do it? Sure I will, no sweat. That made them laugh. Then Lisa turned to Jill. Can you figure out a good disguise for Todd? He's going to be our spy. It has to be a perfect disguise. I hate to think of what they'd do to him if he were ever caught. Jill thought about it. Todd, you'll have to tell us how the place is set up now. You can pass messages to our friends inside. Sure, Lisa, he said. Okay, Todd should leave tonight. I'm tired now and I feel like resting a little while. Let me know when the disguise is ready. Lisa wanted to think more about the plan, but she was still very weak. While the sun warmed her body, she quickly fell asleep. The whole day passed while she lay on the couch. Plans drifted in and out of her dreams. Sometimes she was in a battle. At other times she was in her chamber plotting out the future. Jill and Todd tried many disguises. Most of them were hilarious, but none of them seemed to be real enough. They tried marking his face up with fake scars, and parting his long hair down the middle. They used a package of hair dye from the neighboring farm. They laughed at the dark-haired Todd, but the disguise still wasn't good enough. Craig spent most of his day out in the sun with Erica. They saw the bodies in the cattle barn. They saw the wonderful modern equipment in the huge garage, a new tractor, a corn picker, a set of plows. With all this stuff, I guess it's a big farm, said Craig. 80 acres anyway. but he couldn't be sure from looking at the farmyard. While Erica played in the empty chicken coop, Craig went inside to investigate the old farmer's study. He touched every book and thumbed through many of them. He sure knew what he was doing, Craig thought to himself. Just look at all his records. It'd be no sweat to get it going again. He searched through all the drawers of the desk until he found what he wanted, a big ring of keys. He picked them up and ran out of the study. He tiptoed past Lisa's sleeping figure, slipped out the door, and ran at full speed to the equipment garage. Was he afraid to let her know what he was thinking? He would tell her about it later. All he could think of now was the tractor. "Come on, Erica," he ordered. "Hop up on the seat with me. Sure, there's room. We'll make room. We're going to take a tour of our new farm." "It's almost spring." "No, it is spring. It's the middle of May. Pretty soon we'll be planting our crops." "You're a big girl now, Erica. Do you think you can run the house and learn to cook? If I can learn to farm, you can learn to cook." While they talked, Craig fumbled with the gear shift on the tractor. He pushed and tugged and wished he could swear. Maybe that wasn't the shift lever. He tried every other stick or button he could reach. No, nothing. Finally he gave up and said, "I'll figure it out later. Come on, Erica. We'll just have to walk around our farm." The walk took several hours. It was a much larger farm than he'd imagined. By the time the tired children returned to the farmhouse, they had seen every hill, every fence, and every inch of ground on the place. They knew they would like their new home. Erica laughed at what she saw inside. So did Craig. The laughter pulled Lisa out of her long dream. She turned her head toward the happy sounds and blinked her eyes in disbelief. There was a stranger in the house. "Who are you?" asked Lisa. "Where did you come from?" The visitor grinned in a way that made Lisa mad. "Who are you? Who are you?" she repeated, and now it sounded like a command more than a question. The others laughed when Lisa turned her head away in frustration. "Okay, don't tell me. I'm going back to sleep." The little girl with the black hair was wearing a print dress. She said in a voice that Lisa recognized, "Don't you know me?" Lisa turned her head back to look again. She squinted through the candlelight for a closer look. Then she laughed. "Todd!" She had to admit that the disguise was good. She never did ask Jill how she'd managed to get him to dress like a girl, and she resisted the urge to tease her little brother. After dinner, Lisa briefed Todd for his mission. Take the car, park it in Jill's old garage, slip into Glenbard through the tunnel, and wait in the furnace room until you can hear noises upstairs. That will mean it's daytime. Then sneak into the south basement section of apartments. Be careful. Make sure that there are crowds of kids in the hallway before you walk around. Look for the Johansson family's room. They're the newest, and no one will notice if there are 5 Johanssons instead of 4. Call yourself Sherry Johansson if anyone stops you, but tell the Johanssons who you really are and that their lives depend on keeping your secret. Explain it only to them. Stay with them all day until you're sure you can trust them. Lisa stopped to think a moment and then continued. During the day, find out 2 things. First, where is Logan's room? Second, what kind of defenses do they have? There's one other important thing, Todd. If it's safe. If it's safe, try to see Charlie and tell him that we're okay and that we plan to take over on May 26th. That's 6 days from today. And tell him that we need at least 10 cars, 3 large trucks, drivers to go with them, and all the guns he can sneak out. Tell Charlie that he shouldn't talk to anyone or do anything for 2 days. He has to come up with a plan of his own for getting the drivers, trucks, and guns. When he's sure it will work, he can get started. He and his team should sneak out of Glenbard on the night of May 23rd and come to the Arco station at Swift Road and North Avenue. We'll meet them there at midnight. If it's safe for us to show ourselves, he should flash a light across North Avenue once every minute for 12 minutes, starting at midnight. Set your watch and give it to him. Then tomorrow night, after everyone is asleep, you slip out of the Johansson's room, down the hall, and out of the tunnel. But be careful. They may have guards. Here's a pistol. Keep it under your dress and use it if you have to. Will you? It's much too complicated for him, she thought, so she explained it over and over and over again until he could repeat the mission plan without error. "I've got it now, Lisa," he said finally, and he went out the door and disappeared into the night. They all worried about him. It was a dangerous mission, but he was a brave kid. The next day was a nervous day for all of them. How is Todd? How is he doing? They asked themselves over and over. Craig spent most of his time outside in the warm May sunlight. Why is he out there all the time? Lisa wondered. Her strength was slowly returning. Jill told her she'd have to rest in bed for at least a few more days. Lisa didn't like that. She had many things to do to prepare for the 23rd, but she spent the rest of the day just making plans. Late on the first day of Todd's mission, Lisa called for Craig. "What's the matter with you?" she asked. "You're outside all the time. Don't you want to help me make plans?" "That's funny, Lisa," he said. "It was your city, your very own city when you owned it. Now that we have to fight to get it back, it's suddenly become our city." He was right, and she knew it. Still, he hadn't answered her question. "I'm sorry," she said. "Will you help me plan the recapture of my city where you'll be safe?" That didn't sound right either. "Craig, I didn't mean that the way it sounded. I need your help now. I truly do. I can't force you. I know that, and I would never want to. But will you help me?" "No." "No," he said flatly. "Lisa, I think you should give it up and stay here with Erica and me on this farm. Why keep fighting?" "Give it up? Stay on this farm?" "Lisa, we're safe here, and we can live a peaceful life. We don't have to fight anyone. We can raise our own food and let all the gangs kill each other off. I'm tired of militias and armies and spy missions. We're staying here." "You think you're safe here? Just about the time you've hauled in your first crops, the armies of Chittister, Elm, and Lennox will stroll right in to reap your harvest. What will you eat when they've taken it all away from you? Who will defend you? Erica with a pistol?" This time Craig challenged her. "Remember back on Grand Avenue when you said that the militia would end all our problems? You said the same thing at Glenbard, and look what's happened. What you do, Lisa, is build valuable things that everybody wants to take away from you. So far, they've done it every time. Let them have it, Lisa. You can't fight them forever. You'll work to build Glenbard into an even richer and stronger fortress, and what you'll get for your pains will be another attack from a bigger and smarter army. Why fight it? Stay here with us where nobody will care about our life and our corn. At least we'll be able to live in peace." "We're staying here," he said. "I've decided that for sure." "I'm sorry, Craig. I'm sorry to lose your help. Sure, I've made mistakes. I don't deny that. I've had wild ideas, and many of them have failed. Right now, I'm the biggest failure in the whole world, but that's not going to stop me. I know we can accomplish all those things I used to talk about. We can get everything to work again someday. But to do it, we've got to realize that the reason for all the fighting is fear. What do you think makes Logan do what he does? It's fear. What do you think is the mistake almost everybody makes? They're afraid of the problem of survival. They fight and do all kinds of stupid things because they're afraid. No, I'm not giving up. It's too important. Someday you'll see it too." She turned away from her friend.